Namaskar. A very good evening to all our viewers who have joined here today and also who will be joining with us soon. I, Ritu Bhatnagar, draw immense pleasure in welcoming you all here on Neelam Saxena's Facebook page. In this special evening, in which we are going to discuss and celebrate the wonderful book, The Chiseled World, written by none other than Neelam Saxena, who stands in the foremost line of contemporary writers of the literary world of both national and international fame. Welcome, Neelam.
Thank you, dear Ritu.
What can be a better way of welcoming a prolific bestseller author like Neelam Saxena rather than in her own words? And here I would like to recite a short poem from her own book, The Soul Unbound. I
Okay.
am a little bird that flies uninhibited in the sapphire of the skies, exploring every inch of the free space, inhaling every bit of the pure breeze, spiriting and trancing with the pinning breath, mulling over the mystifying mysteries of life, wondering about the unknown and the unheard, yet pushing the obscure boundaries, touching the virgin horizons, with the dreams deftly perched on my wings. Such beautiful lines, Neelam.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. I had, in fact, forgotten about these lines, just like I write and forget.
But these are
But
such
the moment
beautiful.
somebody starts saying, I know they are mine. So, because I
Yeah,
remember
definitely.
this feeling.
These are your lines and such beautiful lines which give a glimpse into your thought process, your personality, your how your aura, everything. Now, this was the verse from your book, very own poetry book, The Soul Unbound, and these words gave a peep in your inner self. I think this is the best intro of Neelam Saxena Chandra, besides mentioning all the novels and the poetry collections and storybooks, children's books, and the array of awards and the worldwide acclamation she has earned for her contribution to the literary world. I would like to add here that Neelam ji is the bestseller bilingual author of par excellence, the one who holds several records, including the Limca Book of Records, and is one of the listed, and she has been listed in the by Forbes magazine in year 2014 amongst the most popular 78 authors. Her first award were conferred to her at the hands of Gulzar Sahab. I correctly remember it here, and which I would say was the turning point of her writing career. Isn't it, Neelam?
Indeed, indeed. And who will know it better than you?
And since that day, I think that you have not looked back. You have been constantly writing and moving and churning out jewels out of your pen. And now you have come out with another jewel. And it is really a crown in your collection. This is a short story collection of English stories, which is titled The Chiseled World. And I proudly hold this book in my hand. And I
Let
hope,
me hold it too.
yeah, sure. Yeah, this is such a beautiful storybook, and I'm really proud holding it here. And when I was reading this book, I was so thrilled and excited, and I can assure our viewers that it is going to be a wonderful read. If you will read it, you will really feel goosebumps as I felt going through it.
And as I feel even after reading it so many times,
Yeah,
I still feel it. Today when we were going to go live, I was just going through the stories and
yeah.
I did have goosebumps once again.
I was also going through it since I had read it. Well, the day this book arrived in my hands, I started reading it and I finished it within, I think, 10 days. We're going, 10 days means this is a short story collection. And I read a story per day at the rate of story per day and maybe a more. So I finished it within 10 days. And after that, today I picked this book up again, and I again, when I was going through all the stories, just refreshing my memory, and I was like, oh, this is a wonderful book. So I'm very
Mm.
much confident that everyone will agree with me that Neelam has been making superior contributions to the English literature as well as Hindi literature, since she's a bilingual author. And these stories, I would like to say here, have nuances of modern twists and perspectives, and they breathe a fresh air. This is how what News Now has stated about her, and IANS has quoted about her that her as the 4 Indian female poets you need to read, since she writes. She's a prolific poetry writer also.
Thank
So
you.
I'm so excited with to have this chit chat with you, Neelam, and I'm very much sure that our viewers are eagerly waiting to listen from you rather than me keep on talking about the book. So, what I would like you to introduce this book to our viewers.
Well, as far as the means written words which are there on Amazon and everywhere, I'll first begin with them.
Yeah,
There are circumstances beyond our control that often make us feel helpless, vulnerable, and marooned. The protagonists in the collection, The Chiseled World, are also victims of these situations and feel lost. However, following different paths, these characters also come face to face with their inner lighthouse, and an infinite quantum of light begins to shine in their souls. Their ultimate goal in life might change as per their situations, but they find peace which emanates from their heart, mind, and soul. So, this is in short a synopsis about this collection. But the next question, I know that what you are going to ask me, being a friend. You are going to ask me, why did I give it this title, The
yeah,
Chiseled World, isn't
yes,
it?
yes,
So, well, I would like to show the cover page once again to our viewers. See, you can see a lady at the center, and she appears so perfect. Everything is symmetric, perfect. But if you
yeah,
look around her, there's a lot of chaos. Can you see that?
yeah,
So, the lady appears chiseled, but what is there in the background is the noise which is there all around her. So though she appears to be so happy and at peace, she isn't. And this kind of feelings is often noticed in many people. They appear to be so different on social media or when they are with friends, but inside they may be undergoing certain agonies, certain pains, certain happiness, which they don't want to disclose. They become so aloof because we are all becoming very distant in the recent past. So, the world that appears chiseled is actually not chiseled, and there's a lot of chaos. And I've tried to bring about certain stories which cause these pandemonium in the minds of people. And as a writer, I'm usually working on feelings and relationships. So it is about these two topics that I talk in this book.
I think that none of the story is complete without talking about relationships, isn't it?
Yes, very well
Relationships
said.
come out to be a central theme. If you are weaving a
Yeah,
story, it has
yeah,
to be around our human. It rotates around our human relations, whether it is between parents and children, or husband or wife, or lovers or friends, with
yeah,
your grandparents of anywhere. So
yeah. And
yeah, yeah.
no, no, you ask.
So now I would like to ask you, when you think about penning down a story, firstly, how do you, when do you feel like that you should write down a story? what
Mm,
inspires you or what instigates you that but as an author at times when you see something or if you are moved by something one feels like at time the person may feel like penning down a poem or a person may feel like penning down a story. So I would like to know that your thought process when you feel like penning down a story.
See, I always keep like penning down. That is the first rule. Now, the second, coming to the second thing, when do I feel like writing down a poem and when do I feel like writing a story or a novel?
Hmm.
Uh, First of all, it is guided by the time I have in hand. Because
Hmm.
when I'm in very difficult jobs, like I prefer to give my first attention to that. So my mind is preoccupied. So those are the times when I'm only writing poems. Because for writing a poem, though hours and hours of thinking go, but for ultimately writing it down, I take hardly 2 3 minutes. So, like last 2 years, I've written very few stories and more of poems. And for writing a complete novel, I just realized I've just begun writing a novel on a very interesting topic.
Hmm.
So I had been doing research on this topic since last 1 year without realizing why I am doing. I don't have these means I've never come across somebody with this issue, and
Hmm.
still I'm keeping on investigating about this particular word. And that was that word which led me to write a complete novel. And in last 1 week, I finished 4 chapters. So it all depends.
Oh, wonderful. But I think most of the people will keep on pondering over a poem for a week, and you are right. That's really wonderful. Now, one more thing, I'm very curious to know that
Yeah.
while writing these stories of this book, The Chiseled World, what came first? The character came first in your mind that you would like to weave the story around this character, or the story came first and then you put a character in the story?
First of all, when I'm writing, this book doesn't come to my mind. Means like
Hmm.
unlike a novel, when you're sure right from the beginning, because and these are going to be the protagonists. This is the way you are going to start. This is the way it is going to end. So many things are clear in the mind of the author. But while writing a short story collection, this is not clear. And I've written just a few short stories randomly, whatever came to my mind. But these were the stories which I have penned in the last 3 years.
Okay.
Mostly, yeah, at different points of time. Because
Hmm.
if you try to write short stories without intervals, they tend to be replicas of each other. So I
Hmm.
didn't want emotions to cross each other or the stories to be even remotely near each other. So I had to completely come out of the emotions of the character. Whereas in a novel, it is the reverse. You have to stay in the skin of the character and the protagonist and the story all throughout. Here,
Hmm.
I wanted to go in, come out, leave it, and when I'm completely free, then write another story.
Yeah.
So I just,
Hmm.
yeah. So I just kept writing stories after stories. When I had finished writing 20 or more stories, I decided upon the ones which I'll keep in this collection. And then I came up with a title. Then I chose a cover page. So, and then my friend did the editing. So later, all those processes took place.
Yeah, I would like to here mention that since I read the entire book, and I would like to mention here that your friend Raksha Hegde, she has done a wonderful job with the editing.
Indeed,
And
she's in fact, most of my English books have been edited by Raksha, like most of my Hindi books have been edited by you. Few English books have been edited by my daughter also.
Yeah.
because you always need a second opinion.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
yes, she has done a wonderful job, and she always adds joy. When I was not very confident about writing, she would encourage me, no, these stories are wonderful, you should go ahead. And I would keep writing, writing, writing.
Yeah, you actually one needs a someone this like much encouragement from someone very dear who can encourage you to and keep pushing you to do that work which you really good at and you are good at and you love to do. Now, second,
Yeah.
and the next thing which I would like to state here that the question which I asked you that character came first or the story came first, it was simply like asking the hen came first or the egg came first.
Very well said. This is a difficult question to answer rather.
Answer, yeah, it's a difficult question to answer. Exactly. So much.
because because sometimes you bring out the scenery because you want the characters to be like that, and sometimes you just have the characters in your mind and you build up the complete imagined world as per that thing which you want to bring out in the
Hmm.
story.
Hmm.
So it all depends.
It all depends. Yeah, very rightly stated. Neelam, I have been a bit of difference which I find in this book from your earlier books is that usually your stories have been all your stories in your earlier books have been female oriented, but in this book there is a shift because I find that in a couple of stories the male character is also the central theme and
Yeah, actually that
that's
never.
a bit of shift from your style of writing what I feel but
I don't really know. I've come up with a few strong male characters also. In fact, if you read my last novel, The Red Diary, the protagonist is a male only. But yes, I tend to write more with female protagonists because, there are so many things happening in their lives, things which they are not able to control. Like if you see the lives of at least 60-70% people, uh, maybe not all over the world, the figure could be 30%, but at least in our country, that saying still holds good, that your future is decided either by your father or your brother or your husband or your son. So there's very little scope for you. Like it is like a tunnel whose dimensions have been fixed and you have to move between them. And naturally there will be a struggle because to fit in that range is difficult. So I tend to write more about women, and like I think I've spoken also to more women than men, except in engineering colleges. Yeah, I do have very good friends also, male friends also from my engineering college and all. But I've spoken more to females, and I've seen people suffer, women, women suffer, and if you remember the girl who used to be with me in Lucknow, what kind of
yeah,
suffering. She was left with 4 children, and she was suddenly one day thrown out of her house by her husband,
I
who
remember.
was a government employee. So, these stories, they stir something inside me, and I write more on women. But yes, there are many interesting stories which could be happening in the lives of men, especially because we are taught boys don't cry.
Yeah,
And what do these boys do when they don't cry?
yeah.
It's so,
That is I think that is a very difficult part of males. They are not taught to cry. They are not
yeah,
taught to share their feelings. They
yeah.
are, or you, matlab, the upbringing is in such a way that they are taught to bottle up all their feelings, and when they get a chance on whom they can rule, they unbottle their feelings, and the person who comes under them suffers. And mostly the person who teaches that male to bottle up his feelings is a female. Usually, that is also a female, and the person who is battered by him is also a female. But the person may be different, but that is true. Khair, coming back to the book again, now when I was reading this story, How Lavender is My Maze. Now, this it is a very intense story, Neelam, and I was feeling really goosebumps when I was going through it. The first, after reading the entire story, I was really thinking about asking you, from where did you get the idea of this weaving your story around this topic?
This story took shape in my heart when I was posted in Delhi. And very little part of it, you can say, uh, there is one particular scene, but it is the central scene of that story
Yeah, I
that
haven't
I
talked about it because I thought that it should be kept under wraps. But
yeah, I'm also not talking about it
yeah,
right now. But the central part of the story, the part around which the whole story takes place, I
mhm,
actually saw it happening.
I
And
know.
it was happening at the same place where I've stated in the story, that is Dhalakua. So one
Right.
day I was driving from my house, which was in Lutyens, to I think it was Dwarka in all probability, or maybe Gurgaon. I don't remember, but probability of Dwarka is more. So
Hmm.
while I was standing at Dhalakua, I saw it happening. And like, it was so painful for me that
Hmm.
I felt helpless for days and days. And then when I could not remove that helplessness, still I decided to write a story so that it reaches others who read this, and they understand what happens. Maybe a little of empathy can help those victims. So I just had to write this story.
Yeah, actually, uh, now I can imagine Mata, how you must have felt when you must have seen that thing happening, or that event. But it was, and it really, Mata, I was feeling such goosebumps, and my hair, I was so, what should I say? जिसे कहते हैं ना रोंगटे खड़े होना when I was reading it. And your pen has, you have penned it down very nicely, I should say, as a from the perspective of literature. You have brought down what you wanted to say in a very good manner. And the next story, which I was very much, I liked very much, is the Pink Bougainvillea. Now, that is really a very heart touching story. And from this story, I would like to read a line. Pearl looked at him in amazement. Pearl is the central character of the story, I would like to tell here. Pearl looked at him in amazement as he handed over a document to her. And she wondered, why hadn't she thought that Shantanu could leave a will for her? Matlab, now, this is something which usually females don't expect in our society. Females don't expect that someone will be leaving a will for her, isn't it?
There's more to that. That is one part. And the other part is the legal angles. Because while I was writing this story, I was wondering with how it will be taken by the readers, because
Hmm.
it doesn't follow a traditional norm. The family
Hmm.
that I've depicted here doesn't follow the traditional
Yeah.
norm. So it is because of that also she's surprised. There are two elements.
Yeah, there are two
Uh,
elements, definitely.
this story I also love a lot because, we always think that love can exist only between traditional families, genuine
Hmm.
love, true
Hmm.
love. But love often defies all boundaries, and sometimes it may not be there in traditional families, and it can be there elsewhere, and which is also a part of the story, though it is not
Yeah.
the main thing, but it is a part of the story also.
Eh, very rightly stated. It is not necessary that a person may get love from the relations in which the person is bound. It He or she may receive the love, a genuine love, not something superficial, a genuine love from a person who is not related even, or the society may not accept that relationship, but still there is a genuine love and caring about that person between those persons. And as you said that it is not a traditional story, so there is a legal angle to it, but still she's amazed that because of that also she's more amazed how could he leave a will for her. And that
Yeah.
and I'm very sure that when the reader will when someone will read the story, that person will also be amazed, and then only then he can be realize the gravity of genuine love, what is a real love and caring. Now, Neelam, which is your favorite story from your book? I know that all the stories you must, because
I
because
can't
this is,
say
I
this
think
is
that
my
this is
favorite.
a brutal question to ask an author, because uh, all the stories, the poems, and everything is very close to the author's heart. But still, I would like to ask you which story is most impactful in your eyes.
Mean, there are many stories from this collection which are very impactful. In fact, if I look at it, I always find it difficult to choose a story for reading because,
Hmm.
all of them I like in some way or the other. Means all of them are close to me, and all of them have come from the deepest corners of my heart.
One thing I would like to say, I'm enjoying very much putting you in difficult situation here with your book, because it is really a very difficult situation for you to choose, because all the stories are so wonderful. But I'm having a gala time putting you in difficult situation. Now you
This is so mean of you. I hope you
yes.
had been next to me. So,
No, I'm very far away. You can't now come back and just let us know which is your favorite out of this collection.
nil, all.
Oh, yeah, that's the best answer, because. But still, I would like you to read out some passage from the book.
Okay, let me read from the first story, that is Adulating the Stones.
Hmm.
Again, it is a very different kind of story, and again, not a normal story. And normal things don't make a story,
Yeah.
different things make. So, this is also one of them. So, let me read from this. When Narayani was 18, she witnessed a marriage ceremony being held in the temple. Curiosity took over, and she went and sat with the guests. No one noticed her. She thought that the bride did look very happy in her pretty sari, and the orange flowers strung on her long plait looked splendid. The bridegroom looked smitten with his wife. She also noticed that the bride would coyly look at the groom, and the groom would smile back mischievously. She found their oft repeated routine so interesting that she decided to ask God for a groom for herself. After the marriage rituals were over, when almost everybody had left, prostrating before God, she exclaimed loudly, "Oh Lord, you took away my mother, but I didn't cry. I had no pals to play with, but I never complained. I didn't even have anyone to talk to, but I never uttered a word. And I do know that children of my age go to a place called school, but I never complained. Now, I beg you for a little boon. Bestow upon me a groom as handsome and loving like the one I saw today. I wish to get married. She hadn't noticed the pujari walk in and listen to her prayers. Therefore, she was very happy when she saw the pujari come to their house the next day and ask her hands for a son. She had been so lost in herself that she had never seen the pujari's son. At least she was sure that he never came to the temple, for she could recognize everyone who came there. However, she was sure that a marriage was indeed fixed in heavens by God and assumed that it had her mother's blessings. So, what if Narayani had never seen her? Her mother always saw Narayani from heavens above, and the match was bound to be good. Hesitantly, her father called her inside the kitchen and asked, "Do you really wish to get married to this Pujari's son?" She remained quiet. Though her father had heard certain unpleasant things about him, he also assumed it as God's will and accepted the proposal. He had nothing much to offer as dowry and told the Pujari, "You do know that after my death, the house will belong to Narayani." The Pujari smiled and said, "We don't need anything." So, this was a portion of the first story, Adulating the Stones, from my short story collection, The Chiseled World.
Yeah, and it's a very heart-touching story, Neelam. I have read the entire story, and I can assure our viewers that when they will read it, then they will be able to comprehend the entire the plot which goes around it, and what goes in the mind of a young girl, and what she prays for, what is in her imaginations, what is her dream, and because she has not felt the love which she should have if her mother would have been alive, and what she had dreamt of, and how what she got in her life, and how she came out of it. The story tells or her talks about her all her struggles. Now, one story there is the surrender, which I feel is a very strong story. And
Yeah. Okay.
in the one word which I would like, which I came when I thought I would only say one word about this. It the surrender for the surrender. I would say it is a very strong, with a very strong story background. The gray loss is very intriguing. For the sake of honor, while I was reading, for the sake of honor, I felt a chill down my spine. My God, it was really a very chilling story. Affair at the rate online. Now, there are so many cases happening around us these days, and it's really eye opener for those who venture in this world.
You
No,
know, the
I
stories that you have been naming,
yeah.
except maybe Affair at the Rate Online, which is a realistic story.
Hmm.
All the other stories, I had to really fight my thoughts and my tears to come out of it, because I felt I'd made such a strong world out of characters from nowhere, describing where they are staying and what is happening to
Hmm.
them, that every story, it took me at least 15 to 20 days to come out of it after having written it. It used to be so
That,
intense.
hmm. Yeah, definitely. You have written the story. You must have lived those stories in your mind, I should say. You must have lived it, and you must have built those characters in your thoughts. Then only you must have written, and it must really have been difficult for you, difficult also, and what I should say, that it must have been really tough for you to come out of those of those thoughts also, isn't it?
Yeah.
So now, what would you say? I would like to ask you that we like to read you. We like to read you. Whom do you like to read?
A very difficult question again. But I've grown. I started my reading journey with Annette Blyton, like any other young
Yeah, we all
person
have
would.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I received it as a prize of for mathematics in my school. We used to be given books, so that marked the starting journey of my reading. Then I read many authors, right from Rabindranath Tagore, of course, the English translations, Premchand. And then I read European authors more, Jane Eyre. Uh, However, during my college days, the author who remained my favorite for long was a very different author. Of course, I've read all his books. When I begin to like any author, have to complete all the books, without which I don't find peace. So my favorite authors have kept changing. Now it is no single author. Means now I have different authors. It is rather the subject which interests me more. So things keep changing. That's it.
Things keep changing, definitely. But one thing you have very rightly stated, that if you have to understand an author, you need to read a lot about, read most of his or her books, because then only you start
Yeah.
understanding the person's thought process, isn't it?
Yeah, 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 yeah. That is very important. And unless, what do you do with a song? There are so many lyricists.
Hmm.
But there are certain lyricists who touch your heart more.
Yeah.
So, I was talking about Eric Segal a few minutes ago. So, I began with Eric Segal's love story, and I didn't like it that much because a lot of means it had become too famous, and it wasn't of my taste. Love story. But
Hmm.
then I decided, no, I'll not give up. The author is very well known, Eric Segal. So I read his other books, and Doctors, The Class, Prizes, all these became and remained my favorite for a long time to come.
Hmm.
So, means I read Randy Posh a few days ago. It was again another wonderful book by him. So now it is no longer the authors;
This.
they are the books. And I read all authors now, Indian authors, authors from different countries. I happened to read a Kenyan author a few months ago. So, like, I keep reading different authors, and that interests me a lot.
And I think that authors from very different cultural backgrounds, they come up with their stories, they come up with a different flavor also, isn't it?
Yeah,
If you
when I
are
read
reading a.
Pearl Buck's Good Earth, like it took me to a different world itself, something
Hmm.
which I didn't know. So it makes you travel to different places, understand the cultures, and you enjoy it.
Now, when some reader from some different nationality will read this story from your book, The Escape, the story titled Escape, the person will be intrigued to understand who is Krishna, who is Draupadi, who is Gita. That is
Yeah,
the,
yeah,
isn't it? Now, that is the beauty when you start reading. different authors from different cultural backgrounds. So then the person will be very much intrigued to know that when the protagonists say you were lucky that you had a Krishna to save you. Poor people like us don't have a Krishna to save us from a life of disgrace. We are on our own with our struggles and defeats. The person will definitely pick up a book and try to understand who the Krishna is. They say mostly that
No,
was I.
you are very correct in saying that, and maybe I'll have to write a footnote if it has to. It is already available internationally, so maybe I should add a footnote.
Yeah, that you can do that. That would be. And the other thing which I liked about the story is that you have woven the mythological characters so beautifully in this story and bringing out and correlating those characters in the present scenario. That is a beautiful way of writing a story,
I've
and I'm very
experimented. I've experimented with different kinds, so I'm
yeah.
happy that you like this experiment
Yeah, I
also.
like this experiment very much. And I hope
Mhm.
that since you are a very intelligent writer, I know, and you are a very intelligent person, you will definitely come up with, you can come up with many more such sort of comparisons and such sort of metaphors which can be used in such ways. Okay, so at this juncture, Neelam, I would also like to tell our viewers that Neelam Saxena leads a literary warriors group. And under her guidance, we are coming up with an anthology of poems, which is very much likely to be ready by the next month. I expect that it will be ready by the next month or by the end of it. And I myself, Ritu Bhatnagar, and my friend, my colleague, Wahida Hussain are its Hindi and English editors. And as I just said, Neelam Saxena is its curator, and under her guidance and her flagship, we are bringing out this anthology. Earlier, we had come up with Shajar Ki Chhaav Tale, the poet's scribble. I would like Neelam ji to please throw some light, if you wish, on this upcoming anthology also for our
Oh, why not?
viewers.
Why not? Why not? People have already seen our work in Shajar Ki Chhaav Tale, the poet's scribble, which is a collection of English and Hindi poems. So, on the similar lines, we've come up with this anthology this year. We are yet to finalize a title, but the editing part is mostly done, and we'll be sending it soon to our publisher. And it is a very wonderful book. The poems in the book are so different. This was supposed to be on social issues, including which has a wider spectrum, which includes mental health, which includes environment, which includes women related issues, gender discrimination, so many other things. And motivation also, of course, that is also a wider social topic. So we are coming up with this anthology, and Ritu and Vahida, though Ritu has said that she's the Hindi editor and Vahida is the English editor, nothing like that. We've all been working together, and certain parts one or the other has taken up, and it is a team effort, and real hard work has gone into it, let me tell you, friends. And I'm sure that it would be a wonderful anthology, and we are eagerly awaiting its release.
Yeah, you have correctly said, you have corrected me very nicely that it is really a teamwork. Definitely, it's a teamwork, and we all have been working very hard with it. So there are so many friends have joined here today with us. Sunil Joshi ji is saying that Neelam ji की छत्र छांव में एक और एंथोलॉजी. Sunil ji is mentioning here. नीलम जी की छत्र छांव में एक और एंथोलॉजी. Anup
अब
Pandey ji
छत्र
also.
छांव वगैरह मत बोलिए सुनील जी.
It's Anup Pandey ji also joined us. And Nivedita, our friend, was also here with us. And I would like to say here that the Chiseled World by Neelam Saxena has been finely woven around the relationships. Once again, I would mention here that no story is complete without talking about relationships, and for which I would say that Neelam, that you are an excellent writer in bringing out the intricacies of relations. The journey which has been undertaken by the protagonist here is a collection which is a very unique in its own way. It brings it. The stories are very strong, characters are very inspiring, and they're very heart touching also. Some are very intriguing, some are very bringing out goosebumps and giving you chills. Some stories are like cautioning you in this journey of life. They caution the person that you can't you should not trust, you should not have a blind trust on anyone. Be cautious about it. There are all sorts of stories here. It's a wonderful mix of all the sorts of emotions and experiences and the path chosen by the characters here. And what I feel that your stories are like a lighthouse. They show us a path also, you know. This, that is what my reading is about your stories, if I am correct. And I'm very much sure I would like to get a feedback from our viewers when they will read it. And I would like to state here that the book is available on Amazon. It is already a bestseller there, and you should go and our viewers should go and grab their copy, read it, and then
Yeah,
give their feedback there.
in fact, today also I just happened to see that it was fourth on best-selling list and number one on hot new releases. So I was so
Wow.
happy.
Yeah, that's really wonderful news.
Yeah, yeah. It has been so, more or less. Means it has been under 25 since the time it released.
Hmm.
But 90% times it has been under 10. So today was also one such day.
Wow. That's really wonderful, and congratulations to you. And congratulations to all of us who are associated with you,
Yes,
because we all
indeed.
enjoy when we see this happening on the Amazon, that your books are amongst the bestsellers, and they are climbing the stairs of fame and all. So before saying goodbye, I think I would like to, so before saying goodbye, I would like to thank Prasoonji, who has been helping us out with the posters of of our various shows. And today's poster was also designed by him. I can't leave him without mention. I can't leave this stage without mentioning him because of his immense contribution in that. And my best wishes and heartiest congratulations to you, Neelam, for coming up with such a wonderful collection of storybook.
Thank you. Thank you
I
so
would
much, and thank you for your detailed review. You made me go through the stories one by one and made me realize which are the ones which are more touching to a viewer.
I'm also happy to know that. And I also enjoyed putting you, grilling you, and putting you in such in a bit difficult situation. Though I know that is not that difficult for you to answer, but still, a big thanks to all the viewers who joined us here today and watched the show. And before signing off from here, I would like to recite a couple of lines by Neelam Saxena herself. Victory is not in achieving only very significant things. Victory is not in achieving only very significant things, but in moving ahead slowly yet steadily. Wow. Such wonderful and inspiring lines, Neelam.
Thank
And
you
with
so
this,
much.
I say goodbye, good night, Shubhratri to all our viewers. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care. And soon we'll be meeting again on this platform of Neelam Saxena's page, on which we were in conversation with Neelam Saxena herself. So goodbye.
Goodbye, friends. Thanks for joining. I'll be answering all your queries and comments today. Thank you.
Thank you and good night.
Good night.